Hello together.
Hello together. Hello Robert.
Hi Klaus.
Thank you.
Today's episode is about sports lighting, because everything what we're talking about is sports.
Yes, I guess it is now. I guess many of you have heard about it, that we are working on, or we develop our sports features inside of the Relux desktop. We want to create a new module with special sports functionality. And yes, and that's what we want to talk today about it.
We're starting a bit with standardization. So what kind of, or what is sport lighting, what we need in sport lighting, what is the situation of standards. And we're working at the moment on sport lighting. At the moment means for a couple of months now. So this means we are deeply into sports lighting design, and this we want to share with you what we have learned and what we have expected and what we have now in the building process. And there will be soon a ReluxSport module which you can use, and we will talk about the features of this new module and show you a bit of it out of our, let's say, construction site on this. So it's not finished, so we cannot show you a finished product, but we can show you parts of it in our, let's say in our garage, in our construction site. So before we start with showing you something, we want to go in theory into sports lighting, and for this we have an presentation, a short one, I promise. It's not quite intense, just to get a common understanding what it's about sports lighting. And here we have the first slide. So this is just a picture.
Just a picture, just to bring you to imagine bring you in the mind of sports lighting, and to show one of our standard spot plates we use very often for many projects for some testing and so.
This spot area is close to the home of Klaus, and that's why we use this a lot, and it's also quite okay illuminated, I have to say, at least from the pictures. And this is something we discussed. In Europe, we have mostly soccer fields, but we have, of course, all kinds of other sports, not just football, but of course a lot of football. And we have a couple of standards in Europe. The one and most important sports standards in Europe is the EN 1293. This is just about sports lighting, and we face in sports lighting some different requirements. We have, of course, the athlete, the guys who doing the sports, who has some requirements in order to see what they are doing, so that they can see the ball, that they can see the opponent, so they can see everything quite well and not be glared from a lot of aggressive installations. So this is the perspective of the athletes. Then we have, of course, also the perspective of the attendees, of the observers, of the viewers of the sports on site. This has a different shape of viewing requirements, that you want to see everything which is going on fast and easy, and also the athlete, of course. And then you have also another set of requirements dealing with television, dealing with broadcasting the whole event. And this is also another kind of requirements, which is not every time compatible to the on-site observers and to the athletes in special, cause of glaring, cause of too much light, and so on. And this tries to cover this EN 1293. So this is a standard not just for one part, it tries to find a good middle ground of all this requirements, and there are some solutions to this, and we will see on the next slide what are the content of it in short.
Here just because we have this international standard, but there are also mostly in many countries they have their own a little bit of variance of the standards. Also very often the federations of the sports type have their own requirements at a time. So in many cases you have to deal with more than one paper standard to work on it.
Yeah, so there are a couple of national standards. So in Switzerland, this sample here, the SLG 301, 314, this is in Switzerland spot lighting guideline, which is compatible to most of the 1293, but not in any detail. There are some details which are not the same and which you need to cover potentially if you have something in this region. And yeah, and also we have a lot of associations and so on. We'll have a look into football. Here just some samples out of the EN 1293. We cannot show you everything of the reason this is just too much. This is also in quite volumized standard. There are a lot of pages in it, and also the copyright. We cannot give you or show you everything because it's under copyright in standardization. It's an CEN standard, an EN standard, and we can just show you a couple of it just to refer to this. And one of the interesting stuff in sports lighting is the areas, the measuring or the calculation areas. This is something a bit of special. We have two areas. We have one area which called is the principal area. This is the main area, the area where the sports is happening, mainly. And this area gets let's say another bigger area called total area. It's also a bit like a surrounding area. You can start with, imagine this like a task area, surrounding area situation. But here we have a complete own area. So this dots, you can see it barely a bit of in the middle. You have 2 points, 2 grid points in the middle from one of the PA and one from the TA area. This is a bit of stressful, especially in measurements, that you have close together points which are not the same points. One point is related to total area, one is to principal area. This is a bit of not nice for measuring. In calculation, it doesn't really matter. It's just maybe a viewing option that you need to decide what you want to see. But this is not straight overlapping. This is weird overlapping and not accurate. But instead of this, we have 2 areas. There's a reason, of course, that you can focus on the middle and that you have let's say, a wider area, not to have in this sharp cutoff on the borders. That's why the total area is quite well. And the total area needs to have 75% of the illumination and uniformity of the PA total principal area. This is the formula in the standards, that you have an directly connection of both and not just or not own or fixed values. It's dependent to this. Yeah.
And as we learned this morning or realized this morning, it is not 75% of the nominal value, or it's 75% of the real value, which is on PA.
Yeah, this is also a bit of a challenge for our new spot application, that we have to have it dynamic and not fixed, but should be possible. We will deal with it. Yeah, and then we have here a table, the table 16. For an example, like the table looks, the main content of the standard are the tables, like in the 12464. You have a lot of tables for different sports types, and it's mixed of indoor and outdoor. So you have both of it. There's not an indoor and outdoor. There's one standard for all, and 1293 deals also with emergency lighting, with obtrusive light a bit. There's all kind of, this is some kind of a compendium of everything dealing with light in sports. And as said, also for camera stuff, gradient, color temperature, color rendering for televised stuff. So there's a lot of stuff into it. But let's say for daily practice of a lighting designer, these tables here are the key. Here it's written how large the areas are, and it's also something unique that we have here in the standard, also described and written in how much grid points we have. So it's not just to the formula. This is the standard grid formula with this logarithmic approach. This is the same like in 12464, for example. But here we have written down number of grid points, mostly or completely uneven. There's no even number in grid points, with the reason that you can skip the half of the grid points if you have an uneven number. This is the idea behind. And the other interesting field, what you can see here is that we have not just one value we need to get, or we need to calculate. We have three values in the most of the situations. I guess in almost all sports we have three classes. The three classes are reflecting the different, let's say, sport events. So class 1 means this is the highest category. It's televised. There's an challenge. There's an high competition, an international or national like competition. So you need a lot of lights. You have a lot of observers on this, and there's a proper definition in the standard. And in class 3, for example, it's just something like in training, just in minor event, just in rehearsal, whatever. So it's or in school sports stuff, but or in minor local challenge or whatever. So this is an reduced requirement in lighting, and this makes sense. Of course, you not need always to have the high televised situations. You need to, or you want to spare a bit of energy, and maybe not clear the athletes, and that you can lower the lighting levels in just training situations, and not in the full scale challenge and parts. That's why we have three classes. And this is also something for the lighting design, that you need to deal with different classes with different levels in one design. Yet you not just have one value and then you are done. This means we need to deal with the normal way is that you start with the highest class. It's also not any time all the classes. This is also to decide by a lighting designer if you need all the three classes, or if you just need two of the classes, or maybe just one class. If you have in sports field just for training, not for challenges, competitions, then you might be okay just with class number 3, maybe. Or if you have in center court where it's just used for high competitions, then maybe just class 1 is enough. But mostly you need to deal with all the three classes, and also you need to deal with multiple sports. You need to deal with all kinds of requirements on the same area. This is also a special challenge on sports lighting design. And in the past days, with the conventional luminaires, which were not able to dim, there you have just switch on and switch off luminaires. So you started with the highest class, making your installation, and then you just decide, okay, I could switch off this friend and this luminaire and this guy, and then you can drop down to another class, and so on and so on. Today, this is a bit of more easy with LEDs, because this is easy to dim, simple to dim, and you can just reduce the luminous flux on all the installations and do not harm your MAUR gradient or uniformities just by dimming down all the installation to a certain degree, of course. To just reduce it to more than the half is also something you need to evaluate the energy consumption and maybe maintenance and so on and so on. It's up to you to design this. Also, two other things we have also in all the tables and color rendering index written on. Color is also quite important for sports. And you have also a layering ratio, which is here in sports lighting and in GR value, an RG. So it's the glare ratio. And this criteria was special developed for sports events. So it's also used in street lighting, for example, or in outdoor in general. But this was created for sports. This was tested on athletes, this factor. And there's also a value for glare ratios, which you need to obtain and which you can also, of course, calculate in Relux. So enough of this. In the next slide, we have the association standards. There are a couple of standards for special sports. So, for example, UEFA and FIFA, we can put it together. They are close, not identical, but they share the same criteria, and there are close together if it comes to requirements on stadiums. And also most of the venues needs to deal with both. And so this is close. And in opposite to the SEN standard, which costs money, which you need to buy, these standards are for free. They are freely available, and we can just check out this link here. Let's see if it works. Yes. So it's open, available in the internet, and here we have the UEFA lighting guide, which is a guideline or a requirement. So yeah, you can also call it standard. It's not so far away. You have here also some classes, not the same like we have in the 12464. Of course, there's here elite class level or elite level A for here final tournaments of the Euro and so on. You have different classes, and of course you have different requirements on this. And yeah, and this is of course a bit of higher than we have in the European standards. This is a bit of higher requirements, especially on television stuff. Really high illumination levels where you need to have a proper installation and of course also in proper planning. But not just this, we have also of course flicker and so on. It's also in the EN standard, flicker and temporary light effects. Of course, this is really annoying if you have high speed slow motion stuff. If you have a flicker, you will see it in slow motion, and that's why it's also something you need to be aware of. And then we have something special like the MAUR factor, for example, this gradient. This criteria deals with let's say the homogeneous drift from one grid point to another grid point, that you have less dense or dips between the different points in all directions and in all the planes. So this is also a bit of special that you have a gradient in different of points to the other neighbor points and also of course in all the different angles. You have to be aware that you have not just a horizontal illuminance, you have also vertical illuminances from at least 4 sides, plus all the cameras. We have a lot of more values on the grids. You have, in general, in sports, not so many grid points in relation to other standards, or it's more or less the same. But you have a lot of more different viewing perspectives, vectors on the single grid point. So yeah, this is also something.
In general, we can say that in sports lighting, especially on this high level, so like a football stadium or something like that, you will find much more details and restrictions to the lighting than in the most other fields we have in the context of lighting planning.
Yeah.
Here, for example, problems like this shadowing of a running person on a football field and so on.
Which makes sense. So
yes, of course.
It's a quite good standard, I have to say. So and you can also feel it and you can read it that they are really experts behind these requirements. It's not just some guy from the association just writing down something he had found on the internet. This is really somebody has really thought deeply in this and comes from the practice. So really from on-site situations. It's also quite realistic. It's also nothing which is far away from reality. It's just high level. This is really realistic stuff, approved on site and maintained. Yeah, and quite good. And if you are complying with this, if you are dealing with it, then the installation should be quite good. So this is also something which is worth to investigate, and it's free to see. This is something also measurement stuff, measurement protocols. Of course, in this area you need to measure also something like the vertical. You can see all the 4 directions of the vertical, so you can have all the viewing angles from vertical, or the main 4. Not everything, plus cameras.
This is also a point in sports lighting, which is not in every other case. So in many other cases, you make just the planning, you make the calculation, and that's it. But here in this field, there are normally they make measurements. And then you have to compare the planning and the calculation values, or you should be able to compare these values. And for that reason, it is very important that you are working with the same grid, for example, for calculation and measurement, so that you have comparable values.
Yep. Also the directions, for example, now we have here the FIFA standards. Also the directions are specified from which points you are allowed to make installations. And again, it's just for football, for soccer. It's just for at one sports type, and there are hundreds of different sports types, which you need to be aware of. Yeah. So, okay, but enough from standardization. Quite interesting stuff. And again, it's free. You can just Google for this and you find a lot of interesting informations about sports events, here in particular football. Yeah, but let's jump to some Relux content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I handle over you the mouse.
Yes, in the beginning, let me show you. Let's take a look to this is a project we received from a planner where we have a support in the support context, and he allows us to show this project. And here it is really interesting because it is here we see, okay, there's really a need about it, and this is one of the situation where we don't have a soccer field. We have here a field hockey field, field hockey with a kind of stadium. But here on the side we have some tennis fields, some tennis courts on the side. And here on this side we have I guess it's a training field for field hockey.
No audience.
No audience. It's just for, I guess it's just for training. But it's interesting to see to have here such a complete sports area with various surfaces. And this complete project is built with the standard Relux we have it at the moment. So you have the possibility to realize such project at the moment with the functionality of Relux. You will miss some special calculations like the MAUR, so this gradient calculation is actually not possible. But however, we need, or we think that for many users, for many users, it is helpful to have more functionality in the content of sports lighting, to have more assistance. You have special needs and special problems about this, and for that we are now starting to work with a new project or a new functionality in Relux. And I will show you here our development situation at the moment, and I will show you, or we will show you some of the features we are working on it, so that you can a little bit see what we are doing and what you will receive in the future. I have here made a small project, really simple, just to show you. And we will now add, in the past we have already, since 25 years, we have the possibility to place a football field or a tennis field. But this is there is no higher functionality behind it or something like that. And we will now add a new ribbon, which is sports, and inside of this ribbon we will have the special functionality we need for sports lighting. And we will have also add some standard functionality, but there is a special need. For example, we have seen in the standards that we have various classes in the sports field, and we want to implement it in a way that when you make a calculation about with 3 classes inside of your project, that you have it in one printout, in one calculation start. You can run one calculation and you will receive the results for all lighting classes which are in your project. Also, we have the possibility here to add sports field areas, not only the 3 we have actually in our example, or actually it is not completely filled, but to have some examples, there is also, we have to manage, not that sports lighting is not only outdoor, it is also indoor. And then we will have here sports field, and we have the possibility to, when we click on it, we will see the requirements according to the selected standard. At the moment, we have just 12193. And the selection gives us the information, what is the requirements for this sports area. We have the fields, the PR, the playing area, is
Principal
it?
area.
Principal area and the total area. And also the required or the standard lengths and widths and the grid and the required grid points for this. You will have the possibility to change this in the range of field, which is you will at least free to set the size, but we will handle this with that what is written in the standards. And then you can place it in the final version. This will be combined in the same way that we have the measurement areas and the ground field in one step, so that you don't have to place two steps. But in the actual version, it is not possible. Then we have the possibility to activate the light control. This is a functionality which is we implemented triggered by the sports lighting, but it will in the future it will also be available in all other kinds of ReluxDesktop, that you can activate a light control, and then you will have the possibility in the sports lighting. This will be chosen automatically, more or less, and we have then a light tree control where we can choose select in which, for example, I want to have this 4 luminaires in this control group and this in this control group. So you can arrange your control groups, and in the light scene control group, then you can say in light scene 1 I want to have, or in light scene 2 I want to have control group in a special just dimmed to 50%, for example. Also, it will be possible to choose here color values in the way like you already know it is from ReluxDesktop. But then you can control it by control groups and light scenes.
Yeah. So control group is a group of luminaires you want to dim together in one group, and in light scene you can combine different dim levels of these groups. And a bit like in control desk, like in theater, that you can have groups of luminaires and then you add dim values to these groups. Yeah, simple. And this we want also to do in the standard ReluxDesktop, and we want to do more in light scenes. And here in sports, we just starting with this journey and allowing more and more functionalities.
And another problem we have in sports lighting, as we've seen before, we have a lot of requirements, and we have to check the vertical illuminances, the horizontal illuminance, the MAURs, the gradients, and so on. And for that reason, it is necessary that you can display various results in various windows. In the actual Relux version, you have only the possibility to show one result in one version. And also there is much more the need to have a dynamic calculation. We have already this here in the beginning. There is already a dynamic planning also with results, but it is not so flexible. And now for the sports lighting, we will create a new one, which is which gives us the possibility to make calculations on directly in all the various ways. That means horizontal illuminances, vertical illuminances, and also especially, before I continue, just this is a little bit at the moment a problem. We have now in the sports area, which I created before, it has automatically get all the required illuminances, the horizontal and also the 4 vertical. At the moment, I have to pick, when I click on the sports area, I will see the both fields as Robert described in the beginning. So it's a little bit overlay. And so I have this, for that reason, I have to select, for example, the playing field. And then we can here scroll in it, and we have the possibility now not only to switch here in the ribbon bar, the calculation results, I can also switch here to another.
It's not existing.
No, it's I guess this is it's a small control problem. I have to check here, and let's make here.
Yeah. So the idea is that you have kind of multiple values on the same screen, let's say, not on the same windows. You can have more than just two windows. You can have multiple windows and having on the same spot different values, and then you can compare. Okay, and if I change the lighting, you can see, okay, this has an impact on this vertical plane, but maybe also on the horizontal, maybe also on the MAUR, that you have a bit of more overview what is going on.
And we have also the possibility, or also the problem, that many often the peoples need to, I will just lock here the sports area so that I can pick it, that we deal with these aiming points of our floodlights. And for that, we have now also created the possibility to select not the luminaire and then pick the point. I can pick the arrow and simply move the arrow and will immediately get the updated results for the modifying, and I can work on a big screen, I guess, with various values and see what happens when I change or adjust the aiming of my luminaires.
So if you're horizontal and vertical, one by one, and by moving the arrow, you can have a different aiming for this luminaire. And this will also work with the symmetrical mirror options. We already have a mirror option in it, but it's not easy to handle, not easy to understand the functionality. We will do it better and having an advanced, improved mirroring effect that if you move one arrow, one direction of the luminaire, that all the combined coupled luminaires will do symmetrically the same. And this is something which you need to have in larger stadium facilities, that you need to also respect the mirroring, because mirror is key to uniformity. If you don't have it, then you really fastly lose your symmetrical approach. Losing uniformity deals with more of shadows. This is really needed, that it's symmetrical, and this is ensured by these mirroring options. And moving around the arrow is a bit of more convenient instead of dealing with angles of the single luminaires.
And another small detail is actually we have only the possibility to use the sports areas on the ground, on the floor of your scene. But in the future, it will also be possible that we can place this the sports fields also on objects. So for example here, let's make here.
During Klaus is preparing this sets of spotting areas. We have also seen quite fastly the real-time calculation. It's also possible to have the calculation results on the fly. It's also even faster than we have seen it here. It was a couple of a second or 1 second in a way from the feeling. It will be faster in the production version and not here in this debugging version. And this allows, this is possible because we just deal with the direct part. So if we deal just with the direct part of the lights, then it's really fast. Then it's not an issue to have a calculation in real time. So if you move the arrow, if you do not touch the arrow again, then you get a new results quite too instantly. This works because you have just a couple of these grid points and you have just direct part. It's a bit like in street lighting. But of course, we will allow an tick for allow shadows, because maybe you have some objects with cast shadows, and you have the options to also to trace the shadows. This will make the performance a bit of more worse. Then you need more calculation time to deal with shadows, and we will also going to add a feature to allow one interflection, because maybe you have some really white ground and the reflection of this white, for example, ice hockey, then this has maybe a positive effect on the vertical planes. That's why this makes sense. And if you have enough of time, if you have not in this big area, you can of course always use the normal calculation, the normal pocket calculator, give it a hit, and then we have all the indirect parts, all the shadows, everything from the normal calculation core and getting the real proper results. But it makes sense to start with just dealing with the direct part, especially if you have hundreds of luminaires, and then to switch on shadow, switch on the slight interflection, and then in the end go with everything and make a real calculation of everything, and takes this couple of seconds, minutes maybe, to have the real results. Okay, back to the riser.
Okay, yes, this is also in the past we could only place sports areas underground, but now it will also be possible to place, for example, here my tennis courts on the house, on a building, on an object, or whatever it is. It may be the ground of a stadium or something like that.
Rooftop tennis courts.
Yeah. At the moment, it is also possible to place them on the side. It would not make so many sense, but maybe it has some other interesting interesting possibilities about this new possibility.
Space station tennis courts.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I'm thinking more about doors in objects or something like that. Okay, that is what we want to show you. In the future, it will also be possible. There will also the printout when we have this. When we're dealing with light scenes and sports calculations, they will be put it on one printout. So you have a summary on one printout which documents all the classes you have calculated. So this, from that, we hope that it is more the results, the printout which you hand over to your customers will be more clear and easier to deal with all
the results.
With all the results.
Yeah. The idea is we have all the 3 classes, or up to the 3 classes, in one printout, so that you can easily compare, and that you can have one let's say one result overview of the result of the fields. But of course, you know, ReluxDesktop, there are tons of options to have printouts, down to a lot of tables and so on. This will, of course, still be an option. Good.
Okay, we will take a look to if we have
questions.
Yeah,
First question: how to calculate MAUR and flicker factor in Relux?
Yeah, this will be possible when the feature is finished.
Yeah, flicker not.
Flicker
factor is something deeply down to the lamp, to the source of the light. This is something mainly on the data sheets of the vendors of the lamps / luminas. So flicker factor is it's also a dependent on the electrical net and so on. But and the ballast, of course, but in Relux you cannot really deal with flicker. There's just too less parameters available to calculate this. But it's a really important on this. MAUR is something we can do. MAUR is a value based on illumination, and this we can calculate, and we will calculate it and show you graphically which gradients you can expect in calculation with some nice printouts and visualizations. Good. Next question is there a way to accurately model a pedal cord including the glazing? A pedal cord including the glazing? Okay. Or is there any object file for a pedal cord available somewhere online, or is there something I can look from? In particular, pedal cord, I have no clue where to get these models. So there's tons of 3D models in the net, and in ReluxDesktop we have also a lot of options to include 3D models. I would also, for example, for a stadium, for the audience, I would also import 3D models from outside. This is easy possible, but in particular on this I have no clue where to find. Did we have some sports elements? We have some sports element on our ReluxNet 3D objects, but not a pedal cord.
For this project, we will create surfaces similar. We have it already for the football and the tennis court, and we will have also for the other fields, for the field hockey or something like that, and we will also shown this kind of patterns and lines so that you will realize. And these surfaces will also be active as with their diffuse reflection, what we are actually doing in our ray tracing core. In some critical situations, like on an ice hockey field, or so when we have to deal with a direct reflection from a ground or something like that. This is an interesting point in the context. But in this case, we have to deal with the ray tracing program, which can handle this kind of reflection of surfaces.
Okay, next question. Is ReluxSport still a plugin, or is these features available on ReluxDesktop? So it is a part of ReluxDesktop, and you can use it just in ReluxDesktop. But this is behind a license. So you need to obtain a license, and then you can use ReluxSport on ReluxDesktop. So it's a desktop feature set inside ReluxDesktop. Next question. Should we need dynamic mirroring and shifting mirrors centrally origin for non-symmetrical masts or poles and easy changing of one luminar type in arrangement? Yeah, of course, this is also something.
That's also a point we are working on to optimize this. And so thanks for this really interesting question and feedback. We have thought about this of these points.
Yeah,
we hope. We are looking forward to send you a beta version so that you can test these options.
Yeah. Also the IMAX situation, there's the maximum output or on what we want to bound the errors. Also something we're discussing how to do that. Okay. Can we get a first beta version? Yes, we are not in a beta state. It's at the moment more, let's say, in pre-alpha state. But yeah, there will be a beta situation. Send us an email if you want to attempt a beta trial, and then you can have a beta version and give it a try and giving us feedback what you want to having changed. Next question. When will equilateral grids be implemented? It's a long wish, not just for sports lighting, that we have uneven grid points per default. Wasn't there a switch in the normal desktops to say I want to have it uneven? I'm not sure. It's so old requirements that I get lost if it's already in. Of course, you can do it manually, rounding up to the next uneven grid point.
Yeah, but okay, we can think about to add this to the.
Will we have a possibility to enter and save our own specific local standard calculation grids?
Yes. It's a little bit a question about what do you understand about calculation grids exactly. I know that we have sometimes situations that we have the grid points are really just single points which are placed on a but we are also thinking about that you create your own standards and your own also your own sports fields. And maybe this is not implemented in the first step when we will publish this sports tools, but maybe for the future or something like that. It is still a point which is which we have under the scope to have special measuring points inside of in some situations. I know that in some sports things that you have to make some measuring points.
Yeah, similar question. Can you create grids of calculations on inline ski slope planes?
This is also is one of these points which are we have it under the scope, and we will not making anything which we are working to going in this direction. I can also not promise that we have this in the first version inside of it.
It's also in the end, especially on sea slopes, in the end we need to have calculation points, and the calculation base has to have some certain griddings in terms of uniformity, and you have always to have in certain direction. So this is also something, if you have a bended area, you need to deal with the normalized vectors of these points. This is also something which is not easy. I know from colleagues which dealing with this kind of sea slopes that they are making a lot of tiny areas which are orientated properly. This is something tricky, and we try to do the best to support this, but there is a certain degree where you need to do it manually.
Yes, to keep tiled angle and aiming point while moving floodlights is an important thing too. We have hidden very deep inside of there is a possibility to do this, and we will put it more in the front so that this functionality will be able, so that you can click on a point and they say, hold my aiming point or hold my tiled angle, and then move the luminaire.
Will it be possible to get or to build?
Yes.
For example, the French Federation also have some sports types federation guidelines where you have to have certain points on certain lines and so on. This is something we
have actually in Relux the possibility to place single measuring points. We can group them together so that you will have a summary of these groups or the description. But it would also be nice to have that you can say I have a standard where this points describes and I just import them. Yeah. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, we need to come to an end. Time's is up. One last question. Thank you for the presentation. Greetings from Chile. Please, is there a possibility of these courses being available in Spanish or translated document? Either way, excellent job. Sorry, we not speaking Spanish at all. There's more and more automatically translation options. And also these funnel reluxes are also being putting on YouTube. And YouTube has some options. I'm not sure if we need to enable something on this, but this is a nice input to translate the stuff also in Spanish and maybe other languages. But Klaus and me, we can just barely talk English and German. And all other languages are really hard to deal with for us. Directly. Maybe, of course, we can have automatic translations. Okay, that's all. So we have a couple of more questions.
So if you have some more questions, please feel free to send us your questions to support@ReluxDesktop.com, and then you can ask your questions. Yeah. So, but thanks for your great feedback.
Yeah, it's a lot. And yeah, the last thing for today is to tell you the next episode. The next episode is episode 47. Will happen on the 26th of June, and it's about photometrically data formats. So we will talk about old and new photometry data formats like OLDOMDAT, IES, CIE, XML-based stuff, and so on. A bit of the history of these formats, what they are used to, what they are capable, what they are not capable, and what will be the future of this stuff. Yeah, a bit of more nerdy, a bit of more data stuff, but I guess interesting for a lot of you interests. And yeah, so thanks much for you, and yeah, see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.